Hey, welcome all of you for this webinar on how to create a scoring model for banking and financial companies. Um, so I think I think before we start, let me give you an introduction about Deepak. Deepak is a chartered accountant, and he has got uh, around 5 to 6 years of experience in corporate world. Uh, Before he decided to build a full-time career in consultants and started his consultancy in data analytics. And Deepak has been running his consultancy for last 5 years. And Deepak is a chartered accountant by qualification, and he has successfully transitioned himself from being a hardcore finance professional into debit, credit, accounting, balance sheet, and all the nuances of finance guy to data analytics. And he has been continuously sharing his understanding, wisdom, and whatever his learning is with us on these webinars. And also we have got a course where we train finance professionals into data analytics. So that's what we do. I think the way we run this program is, before we start the webinar, normally what we do is we invite questions from participants in terms of, if you have any questions in terms of what you would like to understand, given the topic which we have on how to create a credit scoring model for banking and finance organization. And any question you have about data analytics, if you can pose that question, we will try to address that question and see whether after the webinar you have got an answer and we are able to reply to your queries. In case if you have any question, anything which you want to know, you can put it in the chat mode and we'll take it up. I think before Deepak takes over, financial modeling is same as this. Okay. I think before Deepak takes on, I think you can put all your questions on the chat mode. I think, but before Deepak takes over, let me tell you about the kind of program we have, and how Deepak has created this entire program. So one of the building block, or one of the foundation of the program is that normally all the programs which are there in the market today, or what the other educational institutions provide, they are, when they say about data analytics, they are about hardcore for engineers, yeah, which is about R, Python, and more towards coding. And Deepak has himself gone through this journey, and while he has gone through this journey, he has realized that what he ends up using is not only coding, but there are a lot of other business aspects where intuitively, inherently, Deepak is very strong, or any finance professional is very strong, because they have got a far more richer understanding of how business works than maybe a lot of graduates from other stream, and hence they always have an edge. And we feel that a finance professional should not get lost or entangled in coding, and that should not prevent him from entering into this domain of data analytics. Keeping that in mind, the way Deepak has designed this program is he will teach you about a lot of aspects about data analytics which are extremely important for you to get started and not get entangled and lost in trying to complete the course for maybe 300 hours, and then by the time you complete the course, most of the finance professionals will leave the course midway. They feel this is not meant for me. So this course is designed to provide you a start as quickly as possible, without investing too much of time in terms of going through and breaking a lot of codes. Said that, it's not that it is you don't have to, you can just immediately get started. I think there is always a learning curve, but we have tried to keep that learning curve as small as possible and as effortless as possible. So that is and that's why the reason why we call this course as data analytics for finance professionals, because this is meant for finance professionals, not for engineers. And the way this course is, there are two parts to the course. One part is where you learn the science of data analytics, about Python, about Tableau, about SQL, and how these things work. Once you once you develop an understanding about working with this science, then we help you in with a lot of projects where you get hands-on understanding about how these various things are applied. in a lot of business situations, so that you get adept and get an experience of using what you have learned in these tools in an art form where you actually do that. So that is how the course is designed. It is into two parts. One is about learning all the tools, and when you learn the tools, there are obviously a lot of examples which are given. So you learn along with examples. There are Excel files, CSV file, yeah, Python notebook which are given to you so that you can actually do all these assignments. And so once you complete that part, then we go into the execution part where a lot of projects are given to you. So that is how the course has been designed. I think without taking further time, I would request Deepak to spell his magic.
Thank you, Bridge. Thank you for giving a snapshot of the course that we are running, predominantly for finance fraternity people. Now, today's topic is how do we do credit scoring uh, with the help of analytics, with the help of programming languages. And when I say programming languages, that should not give you a goosebumps uh, uh, into a thought process that you need to be a super hardcore computer science background person to do those programming. If you take my words, the last survey conducted by one of the famous computer science online platform, which is Kaggle, Kaggle, Kaggle. They found out that uh, non-coders who basically they are from non-computer science background, they are the ones who are um, no who are doing very good in terms of writing clean and efficient codes. So, Bridge, you would be uh, fascinated to hear this, that the non-coders, the non-computer science people are actually beating the computer science people in terms of writing an efficient and clean codes. Okay, so this obviously gives you a push, a momentum to understand that we are not lagging behind and we are up there. It's just that we need some polishing and some confidence to level them. Now, coming up to today's topic of how to ascertain. I request participants to keep themselves on mute. Yeah. So let us start with today's topic of how to ascertain credit score for financial institutions, and this is a real life case study which I have solved n number of times for financial institutions. So, can anyone tell me what is a credit score before we start the deliberation for today? Can anyone tell me what is a credit score? You can use the chat box. Triple A is basically the credit rating. When in a layman's term, when I say what is a credit score, oh yes, it's credit worthiness. Correct. So credit worthiness of what? Credit worthiness of what? Repayment of uh, debt. Okay. One who is seeking fund. Okay. Okay. And Ashok Kumar has said, financial modeling is same as this. Not, not. I'll not agree to that statement, Ashok, because financial modeling is something else and credit scoring is something else. Vineet says credit score tells how an institute's individual pays the debts. Yes. So, in India, can you people tell me what are the credit rating agencies based on which these banks and financial institutions provide loans to customers? ICRA, CRISIL, yes. ICRA, CRISIL, ICRA, fetch. Yeah. So these are some of the institutions who basically have your credit score. Uh, when I say have your credit score means based on your historical repayments of your debts and borrowings, they have come up with this credit score. Say for example, CIBIL is for individuals, right? Yep. So for example, I have a credit card and I make regular purchases from that credit card. But one fine day, I forget to repay the outstanding amount within the due date. So that essentially leads to decrease in my credit worthiness. And these institutions who has our credit reports that eventually gets reflected in those credit reports. Now, individuals, how these individuals uh, get that credit score of say 700 or 800 ratings. Can anyone tell me how they arrive at this credit scores? All financial institutes provides data to CIBIL. Yeah, they provide the data to CIBIL based on the past payment record. Yes, but how do they ascertain that credit score? So if today I have to get my credit rating. So last week itself, when I logged it into my ICICI online banking website, I I would request participants to keep themselves on mute and use the chat box to what you can say. So how do they? So last week I logged into my SAC account and I saw my CIBIL score or the credit score right at the top right hand side of the screen. Now, how do they arrive at that score? How do they arrive at that score? Obviously, there are various mathematical, statistical formulae or the concepts they use for the purpose of ascertaining that credit score. Now, when we talk about analytics, you have n number of ways to arrive at that credit score, and they predominantly, when I say they, these financial institutions, they predominantly use these concepts to arrive at the credit score and share this credit score, your credit score, with the financial institutions. There are two ways to do that, or I can say two methods to do that, which we will discuss today, not in depth due to paucity of the time, but we will try to get a very good understanding about how it is arrived. Okay, so I'll share my screen and take you through the first. Bridge, is my screen visible?
Yes, yes.
Yes, Deepak.
Yeah, I'll just hide this. Yeah. So let me first discuss this credit scoring using weight of evidence and information value system.
And
Now,
Deepak,
yeah,
before we just so what we're trying to say is that, for example, your or my or anyone whose CIBIL score we come to know 700, 800, 750.
yeah,
So we are
yeah,
saying how that score is determined. Is that what
yeah.
you're trying to
Yes,
ascertain?
yes. How is this? How is that arrived? So there
How
can
is
be n number of
yeah,
ways, but
right,
I will take I'll take you through the two ways that we have actually worked on to
right,
derive this credit score for one of the leading financial institutions in Africa.
right.
Okay.
So one our our common understanding is that basis our credit history, a very generic understanding is basis
Yeah.
our credit history, all this
Yeah.
goes to central agency, maybe CIBIL, and the CIBIL gives a score. So now what
Yeah.
we're trying to say is how CIBIL will convert that activity into number is what we're trying to
Yes.
ascertain.
Yes.
Right, exactly.
Yes. Yes. So I'll just first take you through this PPT and then on to the. So this actually we did for one of our client based out of Africa. They were into financial lending, and of late for last 2.5 years they were facing this issue of huge NPA, non-performing assets, wherein people were defaulting in repaying their loans. And in African countries, when we talk about finances, um, the situation is quite grave there. It's not like Western countries and not like Asian countries, that they are very rich in terms of managing their finances and managing their resources. So uh, non-performing assets or loan default for them is a huge matter, and that's why this organization of ours was having this issue for last 2.5 years, wherein they were providing loans, they were providing financial assistance, but a lot of their assets, when I talk about assets, the loan and the funding that they have done to others, they were converting to be a dead asset. They were not repaying on time, or they were not repaying at all. So these people, reached out to us and uh, shared this business problem, and then we thought of developing a model, analytics model, which will basically assess the credit risk at the time of lending itself. So this is not a big deal that uh, that we can do and that we have done, because all the financial institutions, they have their own mechanism of assessing the credit worthiness of the applicant. So you say, for example, 7-8 years back when I applied for a home loan, they asked for my form 16, they asked for my individual returns to assess the credit worthiness, and they have the financial institutions, they have a separate team altogether to assess that. So we kind of developed this model which effectively helped them identify uh, those applicants who are at a very high risk of defaulting, which then they did not provide those financial assistance to those individuals. So we'll talk about how we did this. So this entire business problem is about deriving the credit risk score. So this was one of the method which we used. Uh, this includes the logic as well as weight of evidence and information value. You need not worry about this at this moment, because when you deep dive into the subject of assessing the credit score, these things will look simpler to you. And since we are finance guys, so this again would be very simple for us to grasp. So what we did was, there was, I'll just take through, yeah, these this was the data set which we were provided by the financial institution. They had various columns, or when I say columns, it says various variables that they were there. So there was loan amount, there was debit, credit, repayment flag. So all these variables were present in my data, based on which I was to, or you say we were to come up with a model to ascertain the credit score of the individuals. Now, when I talk about individuals, each row line item here represents an individual. So if I want to assess what would be the credit score for this particular individual, I will use the model that I have developed. Similarly for this and this. So this was exhaustive 53 variables that we receive for the purpose of credit scoring. Now, once we receive these variables from the client, obviously we have to do a lot of data cleaning and data preparation, which I'll not go in detail. So once we um, cleaned the data type, cleaned the data that was provided to us. When I say clean, that means there would be certain variables which will have missing values. There would be certain variables that under date column, there would be some string. So this sort of, cleaning of data is very much, or you can say pre-processing of the data is very much necessary when you get raw data from the client. Okay, so we clean this data that we receive from the client, and we did something that was called oversampling. Okay, so this is basically a process which is used for the purpose of increasing the model performance. The more the sample you provide to your model to learn, to understand the pattern in the data, the more better your analytical model would become, the more accurate your credit score would become. Okay, so this was one of the process that we applied initially once we cleaned the data, and then we used something called XGBoost and hyperparameter tuning, which is essentially a step in order to basically make your model more robust. Okay, we'll not go in detail because obviously once you go deep dive, you'll be better understand that. But right now we are just understanding the steps that we can use for the purpose of arriving at that credit score. I'll skip this. Yeah. So this information value graph is of very much importance when we create that credit score model. Now, what is this information value graph? So there were around 53 variables in our data set, which was shared with us by the client. Now, out of those 53 data sets, 53 variables, it is not necessary that all the variables will be important to us or important in creating that model. Okay, out of that 53, let's say only 10 variable or only 20 variables is important. Now, to how to identify those variables which are important to me in terms of creating that credit score. So this process is basically done using this information value graph, or we say it as IV graph. Let us look at this graph. You see, on x-axis you have the information value. That means the value is increasing as you go right, and on the y-axis we have all the variables plotted. So it will be kind of jumbled up since it has stacked one above the other the variables. But the idea here is to identify those 10 variables which are contributing or which are of value to me. Now, if I say if I take a information value to be 2, I'll just draw a graph here. I'll just come up here, and only these 6 variables, this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, these 6 variables are important to me. So I'll take only this 6 variable for the purpose of making a credit score. Okay, similarly, if I take 1 as a cutoff for the information value, then I go up and see here. Now I have more variables in my kitty to be used for the purpose of credit score. So it's a judgmental judgment that you need to take along with your client, that what is the information value you need to take in order to ascertain the variables which you are to consider for the purpose of model building. Now, with this process, we kind of identified those 10-15 variables for the purpose of model building, and it is not what you can say, not compulsory for you to take only these 8 or 10. It is up to you to take all the variables. But why to take these variables, these down ones, which does not have any value in the model? So obviously garbage in and garbage out is a concept that will fall into. So we will not take this. So the purpose of this information value is to ascertain those variables, and that's how these financial institutions, this CIBIL score, this ICRA, this CRISIL, they use this information value graph to ascertain those parameters, those variables that pertains to me for the purpose of developing that credit score. So once this was done, we arrived at the combination of variables which we had to take for the purpose of credit score. Now this is where we made our model trained on the data set, because in this credit scoring model, or for that matter any machine learning model, you have to train the model using the data that you have. So this was the algorithm we used. We need not go there. I'll quickly come at this diagram. So can anyone tell what you can derive with this diagram? So this diagram is what we provided to the client, and this is what fetched us around 3.5 millions of dollars for us. So all the activity that we have done here, all above activities, actually drill down to this particular visualization. So can anyone decode this visualization for me? What this visualization is telling about the model? So this visualization is actually telling how my model is performing. So can anyone decode this visual for me?
If you want to speak, you can unmute and speak. Anyone who want to decode this model and explain what it is, you can always chat, put it in chat mode, and also you can, if you feel like, you can just unmute and speak.
Default probability beyond 5%, there is a list of default. Yes. What is the shape of the curve that we are assessing here? It's the S-shaped curve. Yes, it's an S-shaped curve, or in credit score terminology, it's called as sigmoid curve. It's a sigmoid curve, right? So you see, as my score is increasing, my probability of good is also increasing. My probability of good is also increasing. So for a person having a credit score of 400, his probability of good is very less. That means his probability of loan default is very high. Then a person who is at 800 plus credit score, just see here, the probability of him being good is almost 90%, 90% or 100%. That means this person is very less likely to default in terms of making the loan repayment. Okay, so this sigmoid curve essentially gave me an understanding that my model is performing well, that the model that I have created is actually good model. Why? Because as my credit score is increasing, my probability of being good customer is also increasing. Understood? So this essentially highlighted the accuracy of my model. Now all this activity that we took here, all this activity that we did here, next what we did some sort of segmentation, which you can see here. Now the client of ours said that the model is good, fine, but I want to do some sort of segmentation so that anyone who is above a certain credit score is an excellent customer for me. Anyone below a certain category of credit score is a poor customer for me. So can you look here, the scoring groups that we segmentation that we did? Anyone who is having 675 or 680 as a credit score was termed to be an excellent customer for that financial institution. Anyone who was less than 430 or so, less than 430 as a credit score was termed to be a poor customer, or very likely to default, and thus we would not provide any financial institution to this guy. Okay, so this is essentially how credit score is arrived. Now I have to basically infuse the credit score into individual customers, right? So we did this at this, but using this codes, which again we will talk about this later. So you see all this credit score which was not there in my data earlier, we kind of punched for each and every customer here, all these credit scores. So this is how your financial institutions, or you can say the rating agencies, they arrive at this score. Okay, so this method is actually called probability of being good or a probability of being bad method to ascertain the credit score. This is one of the method which is leveraged by these financial institutions. Okay. Bij, are you able to see the screen? Because
I can see. Yeah, I can see the screen. It's visible.
Okay, so this was one of the process, that is being good or being bad, and finding the probability of being good or probability of being bad, by way of which these financial institutions, they arrived at the credit score which we saw here. Okay, any question, guys, before we move on to another method of RFM?
Deepak, I have one question,
Yeah.
and you can give it a pass if you think it's a long it will take a lot of time to reply. I think the initial the S curve which you showed, we said that in terms of what is the probability of paying a repayment of good customer versus a credit score. So now this line has been derived through machine modeling, because it will need, that means that you will have to plot some customers who are 100 and who has not paid, or someone who has at 800 and who has paid, and once you plot all these things, then you get this curve.
Not that's not the case, Bridge. So what it happens is, you see this probability of predicted odds score, right? So this involves, so these are all statistical concepts, statistical algorithm that have got in. Okay, so this obviously is working on the data that was shared with us by the client. Okay, this data. So
this is the historical data where you have data of who has defaulted with all the conditions.
Yes,
and then from there
you see here default credit. So the default credit was one of the column where it said that the particular person defaulted or not.
Understood.
So I'll take you to the total data here, which will give you a good idea. You have a column called repayment flag. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Default count. You see this default count?
Yes. Yes.
So this default count was this particular customer made a default of one time. Okay.
Understood.
And what was the default amount? 30,000.
30,000. Okay. Understood. So you have that historical record from where you are deducing that what is the probability of a credit score to default, and that is how you are linking it.
Yes. So this particular customer defaulted one time. The value was 30,000. This did not default. This again defaulted one time. The value was 50,000.
But Deepak, is this trying to say that what is the relationship between credit score and the default rate, or whether the credit scoring system is working properly or not?
Credit score, default amount, and all these variables that are here. You see the interest amount as well. Right. Okay. Obviously, the probability or the risk of a default where the interest rate is a little high is obviously the risk is high there, right?
Right.
Against the person who has an interest rate of very low percentage.
True.
So these all factors, it's not only working on default amount, it's working on all the factors that was given to us. This months left, what was the month left for the full payment? Okay. Existing loan outstanding, what was the amount? Okay. this phone number obviously was not there.
Right.
That agent flag, BVN
Right.
flag. So this all was
Data was there.
incorporated in the model.
Right. But I think when we started this, we said that we are trying to, in a way, get an overview of how the credit roles is ascertained. And I think the S chart, if my understanding is right, it says that what is the relationship between my credit score and my or how accurate is my credit scoring? Is that
Yes,
what
yes,
chart says?
yes.
Yeah,
This
this chart
chart
says
basically,
how accurate is my credit scoring,
yes,
or
because
after what
in
point I
general,
can rely. Yeah,
yes, because in general parlance also, the better the credit score, the good the
yes,
customer is,
the good to
right?
customers.
So
But here at
that is
least
how this.
here at least you know that maybe 800 everyone knows is good, but you don't know what is bad. So here at least you know that anyone above below 550 is maybe not good.
Correct.
At least you have
Below
quantified that.
550,
Yeah,
yeah, below 550. If you say 550 is here, so
right.
if I draw a straight line here, so that
550
means
or 6, yeah.
they are
Yes.
around 70%
80%,
probability.
75%. Right. So at least it
Oh,
gives a numeric value rather
yes,
than that, okay, just giving by an understanding that good credit score is good and bad credit score is bad. It quantifies in a way how much is
yes,
good and how much is bad.
yes, yes. So this probability theory is all about that quantification of
True.
how good or how bad
True.
is it.
True. Okay.
Okay, so this is one of the way which is predominantly used by these financial institutions, and this method is called probability method, probability of being good or a probability of being bad. Now there is another method which is called RFM method. Is anyone aware about this RFM method? Is anyone aware about this RFM method? What does this RFM stands for? This RFM method is used a lot by this financial institution, or for that matter, any business who are into customer facing or who are into B2C thing. Yes, Ashok Kumar says recency, frequency, and monetary value. Ashok, if you can elaborate, what do you mean by Acha, used Google? No worries. So this recency, frequency, and monetary, these are the three parameters based on which these organizations, they come up with a credit score. Okay. Now, what is recency? Okay, what is recency? Now, Bridge, it's a question to you. There are two customers, right?
Right.
One customer did a default, some 2-3 defaults a year back, vis-a-vis a customer or a borrower who has recently made a default in making the repayment last 3-4 months. Which of these two customers, according to you, is a risky one?
The recent one.
The recent one. So the first parameter which says recency, that means if the recent customer, if the recency of default is high, I will give that particular customer a bad credit score or a bad rating. Okay. So
Right.
obviously the person who has made recent default is very risky when compared to a customer or a borrower who had made a default a couple of years back. So
True.
this recency takes up, the first parameter we use for this credit scoring. Now frequency. Obviously, if a customer who is frequently making default in payments is more riskier than a customer who seldom or who rarely does a loan repayment default or a repayment default. So the second counts to be frequency of default. Okay. And the third is monetary. Obviously, a customer who has taken 1 crore loan and he makes a, and the monthly installment that needs to come, interest amount that needs to come to me is around 70,000 or 80,000. If he makes a default, he's more risky than a person who has taken a loan of just 1 lakh rupees and his interest amount that was due to me was 7,000. So the monetary value is also important to ascertain the credit rating or the credit worthiness of the customers. So this recency, frequency, and monetary value combined together, they are called as RFM model. And this RFM model is leveraged by almost all companies into all domains to ascertain the risk. So this RFM model is also used by insurance companies, is used by retail companies. So becoming a champion in this RFM model uh, is very fruitful if you are taking this to be your career. Now, many a times people say that I need to learn all the models, I need to learn all the machine learning algorithms to become a champion in analytics. Okay, that's not the case in real world. You will be amazed to hear, Bridge, that one of my acquaintance in US, he only does plain vanilla time series modeling. Okay, time series modeling of procurement data. Okay, only this, and he earns in crores in Indian value. Okay, he has his own company, and his company only does time series forecasting, nothing else. So if you want to become a champion in analytics, even if you choose one area, one segment, it is going to give you good amount uh, of 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 revenue or perks in your life. So there are people who have championed in this RFM model, and this RFM model they are leveraging with n number of companies, because all these companies they use this RFM model. Let's take an example of real estate. How recently your customers have come on your website to make a purchase, they are valuable to you, right? How frequently your customers are coming onto your website to make a purchase, it's valuable to you. What is the value that they are purchasing from your website is important to you. Obviously you will try to capture the customers who are purchasing valuable products from your website, rather than ones who are just purchasing one time or rarely a low monetary value product. Okay, so this RFM model is used by almost all the companies into who are in all the who are in various domains. Okay, it's not domain specific that only finance or finance in the sense credit score or banking financial institutions people, they use this. So this RFM model we used for the purpose of the deriving the credit score. We will not go in deep because again this involves a lot of coding, but don't get overwhelmed with the coding, because this entire thing was done by me, and 3 years back I didn't know C of coding as well. Okay, so this Python is very simple to learn and understand, and being a finance guy, having no exposure to programming language, no exposure to coding, if I can do in 3 years, you can very well do in 1 year also. Okay, so this process we leveraged, and I'll take you to the product end product where we put the total score. Give me a second. So just taken the head or top 5 of these things. So if you see, this is the individual customer role line item, how many years in business they were, and we you see this R score, M1 score, M2 score, F1 score, F2 score. This is all statistical concepts that we kind of deduced, and we came up with this total score. with this total score. So against each individual, we have the total score, and this full score is obviously we have to provide the upper ceiling, that if all the three parameters are to the top level, what would be the maximum credit score that we can give it to him. So this will arrive at 212. So out of 212 of full score or the total score, this particular person got 145. So obviously he was the best out of the lot. Then this person got 125.5, and this 92 got the lowest, okay, out of this top 5. So this concept basically uses out of the total score, what is your score, and based on which the percentage is arrived, and you get the percentage of your, and you can rank also here. You can put a ranking also based on the percentage achieved. We didn't do that, but you can also do that. So out of this 212 full score, 145 was the score that was derived by this individual. So this was the method, the RFM method, recency, frequency, and monetary method. We utilized, and we could have used both these methods, or either of this method is good enough to give you a solid credit score, because it's been researched, it's been what you can say, tried and tested, that these two models give you the optimum level of accuracy when it comes to ascertaining the credit score. Okay, so this was two method we used, and we have deployed this solution on their server, and they are actually, and the percentage, they have reduced the NPA by 7.5 to 8% year on year. Okay, and for any financial institution, reduction of 7.5% in their NPA, when you convert into dollar, okay, it's huge. It's huge. Okay, and I'm talking about one of the top 5 financial lending institution of Africa. Okay, so you can understand the value that this model, this solution gave them. And this model is predominantly, and this is how these big rating companies of Crystal, ICRA, they are using this. Many a times they have plain financial modeling, which Ashok talked about, which is not a scientific way of ascertaining the credit score, and that's why a lot of, and you, when we talk about uh, public sector banks or financial institution vis-a-vis private sector, is public sectors, they don't invest money in building this type of solutions and using this type of solution to give loans, and that's why the percentage of NPA in public sectors, it's humongous compared to private sector. These HDFC banks, these ICICI banks, they have these solutions, in-house built to ascertain the credit score. They never ever they rely on the plain vanilla civil score provided by these rating agencies, because nowadays there are n number of ways by way of which you can improve your civil score, and the ads are coming in the television, the advertisements are coming in the television, which is basically guaranteeing you that if you do this, your civil score will improve, and they are taking money in order to improve your civil score. So these private financial institutions, they are not using that civil score to provide you lending or funding. They are using this type of solutions, build solutions in house to provide loans. And this currently, when I'm talking right now, we are deploying this solution in one of the top 10 banks of India. Okay, so we are actually deploying this solution in one of those top 10 banks which are operating in India. And this solution, the solution is of ours is actually selling like hotcake, because at this point of time, when you have a lot of startups coming in, they need funding, they reach out to banks. There are a lot of business houses, they are obviously falling back on banks to provide them funding, to provide them financial institutions. You can very well leverage these models. The banks can leverage these models. Okay, so if you want to learn this credit score, how this credit score is arrived in depth, in detail, you can very well do that, and this can obviously become a boon for you, okay, for your career. So with this, I'll stop share this and will be happy to take the question.
Any one of you have any questions? Either you can speak or put it on the chat mode. Uh, Deepak, I think before by the time people start asking questions, I have some questions, some basic questions which I would like to ask, and if you permit me. So one is we're talking about when you talked about how this score which we get from CIBIL, how an organization will use a credit score in deciding at, to whom to lend the loan, and in terms of putting a probability to those credit score. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was one, and second was about the RPF model, RFM model,
RFM,
which,
yeah.
which RFM model, which you said you use it, and also you mentioned that uh, about one of your friend who is using this predictive time series model
Yeah.
for providing some kind of solutions. So now,
Yeah.
if I look for, because I'm thinking from a perspective of a normal a finance professional, right, who has been into accounting, hardcore accounting, and from there, what are the how he will transition, how his transition will look like
Mm.
when he moves into all these domains. So for example, what I know is that the first step is deciding whether this is data analytics is something as a career where I would like to build my skills on. So that's the first step which he will take. Second would be that maybe he will go through a course where he will get a familiarity of or understanding about working with Python, and
Yeah.
getting used to how modeling works, how predictive modeling works, and getting used to the basics of data analytics, what we're talking about. That's the
Mhm.
first step. Then after he has completed the first step, what will be his journey so that he starts using, for example, these kind of models?
Yeah.
Because I think the value unlock happens when he becomes proficient in using these models,
Yes. Yes.
or yeah. Otherwise, till that time, he's still into that from a caterpillar. He's just trying to become a butterfly.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Bridge, very, very good question. So, first thing first, if I have to start my journey, obviously, I'll have to start with something which is giving me a kickstart. Okay. Obviously, so that I don't invest those 300, 400 odd hours to first learn and then transition. Okay. So and that's why we have developed this course of hours, which is just 25 to 30 hours, wherein you will become 60 to 70% efficient in terms of using programming language and using these machine learning models. Now, once you have done that course or you have done that learning, the next step is identify the area of analytics where you want to work. Okay. uh, there are people who are working in insurance domain. I'm talking about domain. There are
Right.
people who are working in you can say retail domain, e-commerce domain. Okay. To go very specific, our company, we deal in customer analytics. Okay. Customer analytics in BFSI domain. That means understanding the customer persona, understanding the customer behavior with the help of analytics to guide the organization how to reach out to those customers. So you need to choose that specific domain in which you are to work with. One solid example that I would give is recently, last to last week, we have won a project from Ireland Enterprise, which is predominantly what you can say, just like IIT is there for our country. They have this Ireland Enterprise who basically kind of provide funding to enterprises who are building solutions and good products, analytical products. So what we are going to develop there is based on your product features, right? If you are launching any product and I am your marketing agency, you come up to me and say, look, I have this product which I want to launch. How should I market this product? Okay. So nowadays, you see, products are not sold as a product. Products are sold as an emotion. Okay. Now, when I talk about this, uh, what is that product which Nike sells? Bridge, if you can tell me what is the product that Nike brand sells?
Shoes.
No, it does not sell shoes. It sells the idea of being fit. If
Okay.
you see their logo, they will have like, just do it. Let's run. Let's be fit. So these products, these brands, they are not selling, products nowadays, because they understand that, if I sell a product, if I tell this is my product, it's very good, people is not going to buy. But when I try to match the product with the emotions of the customers, that's where I can connect well with them, and that's why they are going to purchase my product. So we are basically using analytics and using AI. We are trying to derive the emotions in the products that is being offered by the companies for their customers. So you have to have that specific domain interest. Once you have that understanding of analytics, you have to move towards any specific domain and start practicing. And nowadays, when I talk about domain, uh, the demand is very high in terms of analytics people, and the supply is very less.
But Deepak, here I think the normal sense is, and correct me if I'm wrong. For example, if someone who is working with maybe has got 10 years, 15 years, 5 years of experience in a particular domain, it could be
Yeah,
FMCG, it could be banking, it could be
yeah,
insurance, it could be anything. The
yeah.
first idea is to, since he has got a working knowledge of, he's got a
Hmm.
working experience of maybe 5 or 10 years or 15 years, the idea is to why not start in his domain, because
Yeah,
he knows
yeah,
a lot of
yeah,
things, and then
yeah.
he just learns the tools and takes his domain experience ahead.
Yes,
That
yes,
way,
yes.
when he's moving into data analytics, he's not starting fresh
Yeah,
as a he's starting with a domain expertise, and that
correct,
will make
correct.
him extremely valuable, and that is what
Yeah,
we always
yeah.
uh,
I'll take a very small example, Bridge. So if you were in procurement, right?
right.
You are in procurement, so you can very well use this credit score model. So we have this vendor assessment yearly, right?
True.
If you can create a vendor assessment model using this RFM, you can very well give a credit risk score to each and every of your vendors, right? Basis their delivery time that they have taken, how many times they have defaulted in making delivery of your products, how many times there was a quality rejection, okay, how many times you have asked for a balance reconciliation statement but they have not provided, okay.
I think being in a purchase, I think it will be more valuable to, one is obviously with the working customer, we already have a working understanding. But when we have to onboard a new customer, it's like
Yeah,
onboarding, giving a new loan. That is
yes,
a extremely time taking area where
yeah,
we invest a lot of time, energy in evaluating, and then maybe after 2 months, 3 months, 4 months of evaluation, we feel no, it will not work out. So all
yeah,
3 4 months of effort
yeah,
and collective effort goes for a waste. So maybe something
yes,
that will be extremely valuable to see if onboarding of a new vendor can be done
correct,
through these means.
correct, correct. So
What?
just
Yeah, sorry.
learning and applying this into your domain is of utmost importance, Bridge.
Yes.
Ashok says that why credit scores are different for all institutions. Because yeah, first of all, they use various different models. Secondly, uh, various parameters. It may happen that ICRA is taking only 5 parameters, but some other agency, they are taking 10 parameters. So that's why taking parameters also differ. That's why the credit scores are also different for all these agencies. So my question is, are we using the same raw data? If raw material is same, why the difference? That's what, raw material is same, but when, so that information value, right? For me, I have taken information value to be 2, then the features which has got excess of 2 value will be taken by me, but someone who has taken information value to be 1, for them the features will be something different, okay, added features. And that's how the difference in credit score happens. Can we incorporate econometric stochastic technique for time series modeling for forecasting? We can, but generally this time series forecasting, for this time series forecasting, we have robust models built in Python and built in R language. So instead of this econometric stochastic technique, we can leverage them. So Facebook, they came up with a time series forecasting called Prophet, 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 which is a very good time series modeling algorithm. So
Deepak,
yeah,
again, I mean, again, I'll try to think, and I'm just trying to think from a person who is contemplating to start his career in data analytics. Okay,
yeah,
and I will just try to, because see what happens is, if I have I am thinking about, this field looks looks uh, enriching, that if you start doing if you start working in this field, you will add a lot of value to yourself,
yeah,
and also this looks like it's going to be a future.
yeah.
Now but however, when or let's take when you started this, yeah,
Mhm,
you
mhm.
also had, because you already have, you've done your CA, you were working with the organization where you were performing the role of a CA.
Yeah,
Now you feel like this is a new domain.
yeah,
Okay, I think when you decided that you want to jump into it,
yeah,
the question which comes to your mind is, I mean, there is one level of one possibility or opportunity which says that, okay, let's jump and start doing it. The other
mhm,
thing is that you don't know whether you are getting into something which is right. So there's always a, or maybe not trusting your intuition and saying that let me do it. Or, so there's always this struggle between whether to jump or whether to, no, no, I mean, let's wait. So how do we, what happens to you, and you don't know what's going to happen in future, it's just believe that, and it's a trust that future will work in this direction, and you,
yeah.
and so what was that factor which made you to jump into and start building your career, rather than actually just waiting and thinking and evaluating and contemplating and doing that?
So the most important thing, Bridge, here was my interest towards data. Okay, so I mean, since my CA days after qualifying CA and joining Infosys and ENY, I was very much intrigued looking at the Excel sheet with a lot of heavy data. So that interest of mine, dealing with data, numerical data, which was one of the reasons which propelled me to take this career. Uh, so yeah, the interest is of utmost important, Bridge. Even if the world is moving towards one direction, which is now towards analytics, because you see, never ever in history of any country, your finance budget, this uh, this year finance budget, if you see, they created a pool for this data analytics. If you hear about of Nirmala Sitharaman's speech, she specifically told data is the new oil. Okay, and Indian government, they have set aside a huge quantum of budget in order to build that data pipeline in the country. Okay, why do you think that this US or the Western countries, they are, way ahead than us? Because they have been capturing this data since ages, right? And now they are at a stage that this is going to explode, and they are at a competitive advantage stage. So obviously the world is moving towards analytics. You have that global employment survey of World Economic Forum every year coming out. Uh, Request people to go and see last year's report. Data analyst, data science, machine learning, AI, they were top three emerging jobs. So obviously the world is moving towards there. It's up to you to understand whether your interest lies in there or not. If your interest lies there, that's the only thing which is important to move in that area, Bridge.
Clear. Thank you, Deepak, for addressing that question. It's a very fundamental question, and you nicely covered uh, how how one can decide. Thank you, Deepak, for sparing your thought and taking us through this
Thank you, Bridge.
this area of data analytics in finance and banking domain. And as usual, I think in all your webinars, I enjoy your webinar, and they are full of insights, and I always take back something new. And I hope all the participants who attend the webinar also take back uh, and something to contemplate and look forward to.
Thank
Thank you,
Jay.
Deepak, and have a good weekend, Deepak.
Same to you. Same to the participants.
Yeah, thanks.